weeks, the South African nation will go to the polls for the first time ever, really together as a nation. As the state president, it has been my privilege to lead the process which brought us to this historic moment. In that, I have been assisted by leaders from many other parties, also Mr. Mandela here, and I pay tribute also to them. I promised when I took office to guide South Africa to a new era. I promised to end apartheid. I promised to release Mr. Nelson Mandela. I promised a new constitution through negotiation. I promised a free and fair election in which all South Africans can participate with an equal vote. I promised justice to all. I've kept that promise. And this has brought us to a new beginning. The years of apartheid are over. A new beginning awaits a new South Africa. Your vote will decide whether that new beginning is a good one or a bad one. It will be a good new beginning if the result of the election achieves a balance of power between the two main contenders, the National Party and the ANC. If any one party gets too much power, it will be a bad beginning. Bad also for all South Africans. Our people who are going to vote have the choice to make it a good beginning or a bad one. The electorate in South Africa are deeply concerned about a number of issues. Time only allows me briefly to deal with two. I hope that during question time we can come back to it. Our people are concerned about their jobs, about their prosperity. They are concerned, deeply concerned, about the social services and the lack of it. And they are concerned about violence. If you vote for the new National Party, you will enable me to continue with my task to bring conciliation, reconciliation, and thus peace and prosperity to our country and all its people. I look forward to cooperate.
Thank you, Mr. de Klerk.
With all those.
Mr. Mandela, you now have the opportunity of 3 minutes for an opening statement.
My fellow South Africans, it is an honor for me to appear here tonight on the eve of a historic election when many South Africans will reclaim their hopes for a better life. I am humbled to represent the work and struggle of so many people who made the democracy a reality in our country. It is their good work that inspired me every day during those 27 years of my prison life. It is that good work that inspires me tonight. I will resist the temptation to deal with issues which are unimportant. There is much at stake in this election, and I must use this opportunity to state very clearly the very differences between ourselves on our approach to the major national issues facing this country. Those of you who are watching this discussion at your homes, look to us to exercise effective leadership worthy of the contribution and the sacrifices that you have made just to bring about a little improvement in your own families, in the difficult situation in which we live. The African National Congress has put forward a thorough and realizable program of action.
Thank you, Mr. Mandela. We must leave it there. Now, thank you. Now, questions from our panel. The two parties have agreed on a format in which the answers and questions will be bound strictly by time. A candidate has 2 minutes to answer a question from the panel. His opponent will have 2 minutes to respond. Each will then get 1 minute to make further statements. We start with Tim Udise putting the first question to Mr. de Klerk. Tim.
Well, thank you, Frick. Question to Mr. de Klerk. Mr. de Klerk, violence, both political and criminal, poses a #1 threat to the elections, and over the past few years it has continued unabated, and seemingly the government is unable to deal with it. With that kind of record, as still incumbent president, what guarantees do you give the electorate tonight that violence will not get completely out of hand and thus subvert the forthcoming elections?
Thank you for the question, Tim. Let me start out by saying I disagree with the analysis that the government is not dealing effectively with it. Yes, there is too much violence, but the government has taken extensive steps to deal with it. In KwaZulu-Natal, there is a state of emergency. In the other trouble spot in South Africa, the PWV area, but specifically Johannesburg and surrounds, 11 districts have been declared as unrest areas. We've increased the police force by almost from 75,000 to around about 100,000. The government is taking whatever steps is possible, but its task has been made very difficult by inter alia, our main opponent, the ANC, by their demonizing of the police force, by driving a wedge between communities and the police force. Our task has been made extremely difficult by the continued existence and activities of the self-defense units and of activities also of supporters of the ANC. I sit here with 8 extracts from Goldstone reports showing that the violence in all 8 instances, and they were serious instances, in all 8 instances was attributed to ANC supporters and Inkatha supporters at each other's throats. That is not an easy problem to solve. The government has done its duty in that regard. If we look at the future, I believe that the election will lay a basis for real reconciliation in South Africa. The electoral strife will be over. It will be clear who are the winners, who are the strong parties, and in a government of national unity, our approach will be to take hands with all those who serve with us and jointly to continue to deal with the problem of violence.
Thank you, Mr. de Klerk. Mr. Mandela, your response in 2 minutes.
I deal with this question on the basis that is the duty of the leadership to put before the public a total picture. Any leader who is merely promoting the point of view of his political party is not a leader who is going to help to pull out South Africa from this mess. And what I find unacceptable is the fact that the president should misquote the reports of Mr. Goldstone. Because if you look at his reports, the police are deeply involved in this violence. You have one of the top police officers who has been suspended from his duty precisely because there are serious allegations against him of gun running, of working with murderers to murder innocent people. I have discussed these issues with Mr. de Klerk on a one-on-one basis confidentially, provided him with evidence of the activities of his police. There is one thing he does not want to know. There is one thing that he covers very, very stubbornly, and that is the involvement of senior police officials in this violence. That is the truth. That is the total picture.
Mr. de Klerk, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. A rebuttal from you, Mr. de Klerk.
Yes, the fact of the matter is that the Goldstone Commission was an initiative of the government. And I have constantly said, if there's any evidence of any involvement of any members of the security forces in the fomenting of violence, of them being partisan, of them being involved in violence and political acts, then it must be reported to the Goldstone Commission. And the Goldstone Commission, when it brought out its report, I immediately acted. Can the ANC say the same with regard to people who have been implicated by the Goldstone Commission? They are high on the ANC's candidates lists. We have taken and will continue to take firm action if there's any evidence. Lastly, the Goldstone report in this instance refers to a small group of people. It does not refer to the whole police force, and Judge Goldstone went out of his way to emphasize that it is not the police force as such which is involved.
Thank you, Mr. de Klerk. Mr. Mandela, a final reply from you in 1 minute.
Well, again, Mr. de Klerk is not putting accurately the report from Mr. Goldstone. Because that report, whilst it accepts that there are many policemen who are good, has actually laid grave charges against a senior police officer. And I don't accept the explanation which the state president has given. He has much to explain than he has done. He is less than candid in putting facts before the public.
I'm afraid there's no time left to have further explanation on that particular issue. I now invite Ferial Hafaji of
participating through your social media interaction. We're taking a quick break. We'll be back.
Get the facts first.